Welcome to the Wheel Reads route planning. Yeah, so one thing I talked about in our how-to videos was planning routes for sailing around the world and how to do route planning. So I use Google Earth for this just because it looks really pretty. I mean, look at the Earth, that blue marble, it's beautiful. But wanted to kind of share with you how I go about route planning, the things I look at doing, and also I'm going to make this kind of an interactive series where you as the viewer can help choose and vote on where to go next. So as I rotate the globe, I kind of show you a couple of different ways to go. So you can go south around South America. Actually, you would go south and then go east normally, or you can go north and go east. If you decide to go west, so if you go east on the northern route, you'd cross over past Greenland, over to England, then down around Africa, around the Cape of Good Hope, and continue that way. Or you can go through the Med, but not recommended if you're going east or west to east. If you decide to go west, which is the way that people have chosen on our Discord server, I'm going to start that route. So we're going to zoom all the way into this place called Hampton River. It's right next to where I live. It's actually where I race sailboats out of. And we're going to zoom all the way down to these little piers here. And right there, that's the Hampton Public Piers. Fun story. Last expedition that I was involved with trying to sail around the world, we left from those exact piers. So have a little experience there. Wrote an arbitrary date in there. I say arbitrary year in there. I used this year, 2021. I chose the date for a good reason. If you are going to go from from east to west, so we're going to go that way around the world, you have to leave the first week of November. I'll get into that later in the video, but that is your window to leave. It also happens to be when all the sailboats are leaving dock to go on their rally down to the Caribbean. So during that time of year, there'll be a lot of boats in the harbor there, all gearing up to take their route down the Caribbean. As I mentioned before, I'll tell you why. Might as well just, during this brief moment where I'm kind of explaining things, explain why. So November is after the hurricane season. If you leave anytime in October or especially September, you run the risk of running straight head on into a hurricane as you travel south, which is not advised at all. Hurricanes still can happen in November, but they are a lot less likely. The other plus side is that by the time the nor'easter season starts, which is in the spring, you'll be well south of anywhere coming down from the north. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a little tool. What it does is it actually adds up nautical miles and makes a little path there, and it adds it all up as I'm going, so I can actually get a distance of how far we've gone the route. So going out the Hampton River into the bay, and what I'm using for this example is I'm going to do 100 nautical miles per day. That is an extremely slow pace. If you had an extremely slow sailboat, that's what the pace you would move. So it's conservative. Obviously, we just spend more time in port if we need to. The reason why I'm cutting over there is there's a big sandbar that's like 3 feet deep that runs along the side there. You have to cut the side of it and go near the channel. That's the Hampton Bridge Tunnel that connects Hampton to Norfolk. We have to go around that bar. Once you're past the tunnel entrances, of course, that's all deep water. I mean, aircraft carriers go through there, so you have no worries of where to go from there. It's probably about 100 feet deep, and no sailboat that I'm ever going to be on is that deep, usually 10 feet. So 3 feet does not work in the sandbar, but 3 feet does. Pretty cool. That little island on the second tunnel there is Fort Wool. The other side of there, looking at the upper left side, that was Fort Monroe. The really old military bases that are now decommissioned. That is Norfolk Naval Station. You'll see aircraft carriers there in the slips, and I think there's 2 on this satellite image. Yep, there's an aircraft carrier there. Also with a medical boat. There's the second aircraft carrier. So you sail right past the piers. You can see actually the line in the water, and that's the defensive perimeter. get anywhere close to there, you will be shot. So, but where that route goes, you can get that close. There's some frigates there, some destroyers, more warships. The U.S. Atlantic Fleet is based out of Norfolk. So those are the submarine piers going back in there. And before I give too much more national security things by zooming in, this is on Google Earth, so obviously this is open to anybody, but don't want to focus on our military. So heading down to Elizabeth River. This is a river that also runs into the bay past Norfolk. So we go past the Portsmouth port terminals where a lot of shipping comes in. We'll go right past downtown Norfolk. That's where we are right there. I'm zooming in right now. You'll see a battleship right there. That's the Battleship Wisconsin. It's an old World War II decommissioned battleship. You can go tour it if you ever come to Norfolk. That little building right there and where the street kind of curves, that's the Norfolk World Trade Center. It's also where I had my reception for my wedding. So learning a little bit of fun places from this bird's eye view of places I've actually been. So as I would leave home, I would take a little trip past memory lane, obviously, and we'd continue up the Elizabeth River towards Chesapeake, Virginia. As we move through here, we are just making our way to Elizabeth River up towards the Intercoastal Waterway. When we get to Great Bridge, which is the area of Chesapeake, that you actually have to enter a lock system. So similar to the Panama Canal, you actually have to go into locks. They close it up. They raise the water up or lower it depending on which way you're coming, and you get dumped out into the Intercoastal Waterway. Cool story about the Intercoastal Waterway. It runs all the way from Florida up to Maine. Originally, it was built to actually be able to move military ships inland, away from storms and away from the view of any scouting ships, so we can move positions. It is now open to everyone. Anyone can use the Intercoastal Waterway and travel inshore all the way up and down the east coast of the United States. Pretty cool fact. Oftentimes we call it different names, like the ditch. There's actually a different route that is the ditch, but we sometimes call the Intercoastal the ditch too, because it is a narrow little just carved out channel that runs up. Zooming out here, just kind of showing some things. The reason why we're taking the Intercoastal is if you see that point that's coming out, that is Cape Hatteras. It extends out to what's called the Diamond Shoals, or the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Lots of shoals, lots of sunken boats, lots of dangerous seas. Not really which way you want to go, especially when you're just starting on a route. Just take it easy for the first couple of days. You're trying to sail around the world. You're not trying to race. So with that being said, sometimes it's easier to just do some shakedown stuff. And as you can see here, this is where we're actually going to the lock system. So I might zoom in here. Yep, I zoom in here and you can see the locks right there. Those are the locks you'll enter in. And then you are in the Intercoastal Waterway. Pretty much just not much to see when you're in there. It's just trees. Occasionally there's a tiki bar or two along the way that some guys set up in their backyard so they can serve boaters going by. But it's a straight shot. I mean, literally, it's man-made, so it's not like a river where it winds. It does cut around, certain geographical features, but it doesn't wind like a river. They're just straight canals, and they do take some turns. Fun story. They are all these bridges that go across it. Some are high that we can sail underneath. Some are really, really low that are drawbridges that you have to wait to get the bridges lifted. And it's always funny. It depends on the bridge operator. Sometimes they have set schedules that they only lift at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. And sometimes you just call the bridge operator and he'll just stop traffic and say, all right, just go on through. The Intercoastal does connect to these actual natural lakes, like you can see here. That's actually like a creek or lake. So they just kind of run in between those. It runs a part of the Great Dismal Swamp. The main part is what right there. I zoomed over to show you that. That is the Great Dismal Swamp. I know it sounds like some kind of, fantasy novel name. The Great Dismal Swamp. And it's between North Carolina and Virginia, right there on the border. The swamp has been built over a lot of places, but part of it where you go through is very swampish. When you zoom in here, you can see there's a lot of farmland, not a lot of civilization as far as cities go or towns. A lot of forests, all the greenery. Like I said, not many people live near the Intercoastal. Kind of just going through the middle of nowhere. So just you, bears, mosquitoes, all that good stuff. Last time I was in Intercoastal, I actually did see a bear up in a tree. We have brown bears and black bears. Mostly stick to the swamp area. So, and they don't come out to mess with the boats at all. So as we move down, we're going to spit right out here. This is into the Currituck Sound, and we're firmly in North Carolina at this point. The Currituck Sound is an inner body of water inside the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I guess made famous now by a horrible Netflix TV show. But the Outer Banks are a great place to go vacation. We go there often, but they run on the outside. They're barrier islands, close to the Atlantic. And there's what's called sounds, or like bays on the inside. They're freshwater bodies, pretty large, that are between the barrier islands. I say freshwater. They're brackish. So after a short stint in the Currituck, we go right back into the Intercoastal, back into another canal for a short trip until we get to the Albemarle Sound. And that's just down here, and this spits us out right here into this river that dumps right into the Albemarle. The Albemarle. I think that's how you say it. So we've gone pretty far so far, pretty decent pace so far. When I get to one day, I will stop and mark, put a little marker on there and put the next day. So it'll be 11-1 2021, 11-2 2021. I'm also going to be using an Excel spreadsheet. I'll probably share that, or maybe make a Google Doc out of it. I don't know. Find some way that you guys can go look at it. Maybe post it on our Twitter or something like that, where you can see like how many days in port and things like that. There's a lot of thought that goes into that as well. Obviously, we go past a lot of navigable waterways and a lot of cities where we could stop, but in the essence of time, just try to pick up the highlights. Right now, we're going into what's known as the East Lake or the Alligator River. It has two different names depending on which locals you're talking to, because there's a little place called Alligator, North Carolina. And if I zoom right in, you can see it right there up to, just moved away. There's Alligator right there. And there's that little bridge that goes across. There's a little dock there, and they have a little restaurant. Actually, they serve alligator bites, fried alligator. It's really good, actually. So been there before, stopped there before while moving a boat. Right where we are right now, there's actually a zigzag in the channel. It's really easy to run aground there and have several times. So fun little tidbits about sailing through there. There's actually, if you don't know what you're doing there, it's easy to run aground. As I cut down into this river here, and now I'm putting a point. So that would have been 1 day of travel. So kind of give you an idea of how far we get in a day. It's 100 nautical miles. So in 24 hours, we could probably get a little further than that, but it's snail's pace. That's how far we go on a sailboat. So we started in Southern Virginia, and we're in kind of eastern North Carolina. Zoom out to the world, we've really gone nowhere. But sailing's not the fastest way of moving. The 100 miles a day is based on, like I said, a snail's pace. We probably could do 200 on a good day. 100 would be a bad day, but if you just take all your bad days, at least you have an idea of what's the worst case scenario of how long it will take you to get from point A to point B. So back into the Intercoastal, travel all the way down, and we'll spit back out, I think near Oriental, North Carolina. And that's also near New Bern. So a couple little towns there that are, have a presence. I think there's a military presence in New Bern. So if you've ever been stationed there, but Oriental, it's usually just a stopover for people traveling up and down the Intercoastal. It's a little quaint town, but we're not going to stop there, because after 1 day at sea, come on, we can keep going, right? So we're actually the first stop we're going to stop at is going to be South Carolina. If you feel like it, like I said, you can stop at any one of these towns along the way. Just how long do you want this trip to be? For my purposes, I've been to all these towns before. I might stop there depending on who I'm sailing with. But for sailing around the world, probably not going to stop there. At this point, I'm trying to get out into the ocean. So that is Frying Pan Shoals down there, I believe, which is, if you've ever seen like the Weather Channel when a hurricane's coming in to North Carolina, that place gets slammed by hurricanes all the time. Hence why we leave in November. We want to be away from hurricane season, heading towards there. There's a lighthouse all the way offshore there because there's just shoals that stick out. And that lighthouse has a camera on it, and they always put an American flag up. And during the hurricanes, you can actually get live footage of it just being ripped to shreds. Which I don't know if that's really disrespectful. I think they do it actually out of respect, but it just shows you how powerful the hurricanes and how powerful the wind gets offshore. Not somewhere you want to be on a sailboat. Actually, I can put links down to a video on YouTube down below, and I'll do that in the description. So I'll put links down there where you can see Frying Pan Light and just how much we don't want to be in a hurricane. So that's another reason why we're taking the Intercoastal as well. Like I said, November is past hurricane season, but you just want to be on the safe side. A rogue hurricane still could come around, and being in the Intercoastal is a lot safer than being what that video is going to be that you can click below. So just getting my bearings here. When you're zoomed in, it's kind of hard to tell. So I'm going back out into the sound. We're still, like I said, inland. We're now in the ocean. We're going to cut back down here, and there's another canal I can take. Because like I said, it's just these canals just cut through, connect different bodies of water, and hence the Intercoastal. So another fun fact too is that on the Intercoastal, all the channel markers are a different color. So normally you have red and green. Red being the right side of the channel when you're returning to a port. Green being on the left side of the channel when you're returning to port. So red right return is the little saying they have to remember that. When you're on the Intercoastal, there is no returning or going. So they actually just have different channel markers that just that there is no way to know. You just have to know your channel. GPS helps with that, but then also just knowing the markers. So like I was saying, there is still channel markers. They're still red and green, but they have these yellow markings on them, and that signifies that you're in the Intercoastal. So here's where I'm deciding to head out through this inlet out to the ocean. We're past all the shoals. It's near Surf City, North Carolina, and heading out to the open ocean. Still hugging pretty close to shore. It's pretty deep out there. I mean, put another, this would be day 2. So in 2 days, we are out in the ocean. So, and then we're just going to keep on heading south down towards South Carolina. So get a little taste. This would be like a little sea trial where we can, as long as the weather's nice, it'd be, it's a nice way to poke your head out, get in open water. You might even be able to lose sight of shore for a little bit, and we can get a good idea of what the weather's going to be. So if the weather's bad, we can always change this route, stay inland. If the weather is going to be nice, it allows us to, jump out for a little bit into the open ocean. And I was wrong. That was a different cape there going down. That's the Frying Pan one right there. That shoal that's sticking out there. So what I am going to do to avoid that is probably duck back in. So with that being said, oftentimes when we're doing these routes, you can stick your head out. Like I said, of the Intercoastal, there's tons of inlets. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for an inlet here of where to go. Yep, and where to go right back in. So you can get a couple hours of ocean experience and kind of just do a little sea trial. See how the boat handles the waves, the swells. At this point, you're only 2 days in. If you panic and realize, hey, this isn't for me, it's really easy to turn back and go home right now. Not so much once you even pass the Panama Canal or something like that, but it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to get back. You're still in the States, you know how to go through customs, you can just turn right back around. But this is, it's a nice way. Obviously, I took the Intercoastal here. You could have been right outside the Chesapeake Bay from the beginning and done it that way, and you can cut in an Oregon Inlet, although that is a very treacherous inlet. Some of these inlets are a lot larger and a lot more forgiving. Oregon Inlet is extremely dangerous just because of how much the current runs there, and the channel shifts all the time. So I've run aground in Oregon Inlet. It's not a fun place to be, and the channel markers aren't always right because the channel does shift. They're sandy and shift. So I'm back in the Intercoastal. You can see the straight lines, man-made canals. Like I said, I'm just trying to get past the Frying Pan shoals, and once I'm past those, I'll cut back out again. So as you can see, we're just clicking along. Moving down south, right now the water is going to, as you notice, the color of the water will start to change as we head south. In the north, the water is a lot more murky. And, there's rumors that, the Chesapeake Bay used to be crystal clear like the Caribbean. A lot of that has to do with the salinity and also with it's not necessarily the cleanliness. Miami is not a clean port city at all, and their water is still crystal clear. It has to do with temperature and wildlife and salinity. So as we're heading further south, we have a lot warmer water. Warmer water means more things like reefs, more things to filter the water. You have a lot more clear water. As you can see, that water starts to turn that turquoise color, that almost Caribbean type feel. So you'll see that as we head south. Now, in South Carolina, North Carolina, you're still not going to get those crystal clear water like you would in the Caribbean or even South Florida, but you'll see the colors start to change. Another cool change, you won't see it on this video, but if you were to go out to the Gulf Stream, there actually, which is the large Atlantic current that runs from south to north, comes out of the Gulf of Mexico around Florida and heads right up the East Coast up into normally around Delaware, New York, and that's where it meets the Labrador current coming down from Canada as a cold water current, and it pushes the warm water current, the Gulf Stream, out to sea. So if you're out too far, you're actually running against the current because that current's running from south to north. So another reason why to stay close to shore. We don't want to go so far offshore that we hit that current because we're trying to head south now. Otherwise, we'd be fighting current the entire time. But the color does change when you sail into that current often. If it's not too choppy, you can actually see the difference in color. It's pretty cool. I think this is the outlet I'm going to choose to head back out of. I'm zooming in there, so there's another inlet. So these happen all along the Great Barrier Reef, where you have these natural inlets that have just been carved out, and they then are maintained. Oftentimes they're created by hurricanes, where water just shoves through, breaks apart the island, creates all these little inlets, and then us as men says, hey, that's a great way to go in and out. So let's just keep dredging it and keep it open. Or normally, naturally, they'll fill back in if we don't maintain it, and they'll always change. But now we maintain these inlets. So day 3, done, and it looks like we're right. Yep, so that would be what, 4? Yeah, 11-4. So heading south now, we are almost to the South Carolina border at this point. So we should be seeing Myrtle Beach soon. Yep, there's the line right there. So Myrtle Beach is right past the South Carolina border. That white line right there is if you can see that, that's the border from North Carolina to South Carolina. And there's Myrtle Beach there. Very popular tourist destination, very touristy. But it's a beach town. If you ever want to find beach towns to vacation in, Myrtle Beach is nice. It's very touristy and like any beach, full of little tourist traps, but good beaches. Can be overcrowded sometimes in the summer. And we're going to go right into our first port, where we're going to stop and stay for a little while, which is one of my favorite cities on the East Coast, Charleston, South Carolina. Also home to Robert Jordan, who wrote The Wheel of Time. Love Charleston a whole lot. Great places to eat there. Lots of good little whiskey bars. Husk is a really good one. I've enjoyed eating there. Also, there's a place, is it Lowland Biscuits or something like Biscuits? Lowland Bistro. Low Country Bistro. Thank you. I had to remember that. Low Country Bistro. They have great biscuits and gravy. That's when I thought the biscuits, because they serve great biscuits and waffles as well. So great places to eat. I'm putting a point there, and you can see I'm putting multiple dates there because I'd stay for multiple days. This would be a port you stay in, you rest. You've been a few days at sea, take showers, reprovision. Whenever you get to port, you're checking a lot of things. You're checking your gas levels. If you had a motor at all, you might have had to use some diesel or gasoline, depending on what kind of boat you have. So we're going to make sure those levels are up. Oftentimes when you're doing long distance sailing like this, you are also have jerry cans, so spare cans on the side rail. So you want to fill all those up, check your water levels, make sure you have drinking water. Those are all filled up. We're still in a Western country, so we definitely want to fill those up, because it's otherwise, once you get out of those countries, there's a lot more you have to go through to get fresh water outside the United States or any other developed country. And then also food. Make sure your food stores are doing great on a boat. Lots of canned foods, dry foods like pastas, rices, things of that nature. You end up cleaning with salt water. You cook with fresh. You drink fresh. You bathe with salt. So anything that you're using to, like the toilet, to bathe, to clean, it's gonna be salt water. Anything to ingest, use fresh water. So a bath is always nice. Once you get to a port like this, you can go take a shower, freshen up, even rent a hostel or a hotel, sleep off the boat, some AC. It's always a nice thing to do. But we're going to jump right here, right back into the planning. So you're going to see a clip where it just kind of zooms in all of a sudden. Yep. Showed you what we did, and zoom back into South Carolina and continue on south. So I'm going to do all the way to where we're going to have our next split on this video. So it's going to be a little longer this time. Some of these videos might be a little short, but I want to end with, let's make a decision. So Charleston, there is no decision. We're heading south, guys. So Charleston's not one of those ports where you decide to go a different direction, unless it's back home. So we're going to leave from South Carolina, from Charleston, and continue to head south. Other things to do in Charleston while you're there. There's Fort Sumter. I mean, that's where the Civil War started. It's kind of cool. You can see it. There's also horse carriages. You can ride around the city. There's, like I said, lots of cool little historic things. The museum's really cool there. A lot of history. And really, really pretty town. As we move further south, really there's only one more stop before we get to Florida. I did want to stop in Savannah as well, so I think that's our next port we're going to head to. And that's about a day and a half sail. So like I said, right now you wouldn't be doing large provisioning. 4 days is not going to deplete your wares, but you definitely might want to buy a few things while you're there. Mostly just get to port just to relax. Sailing is relaxing. Long distance sailing gets tedious, and it's good just to be around port, talk to family, things of that nature. Of course, we'd still be and able to use cell phones and anything right now, so all along this way. So not as important as we get to further in our trip. So this is going into the river there in Charleston. The currents there do run really, really strong. It's always fun. I race sailboats down there sometimes. It's been years, but it's always fun when the currents change and start really, really flowing. Sometimes it makes it difficult to actually race, because if the wind's not blowing strong enough, you're not going anywhere. Probably going backwards, actually. But you can see the city right there. It's two rivers that actually come together. The docks actually in the southern part of the island, I guess it's not island, peninsula there, is where the public piers are. It's also next to a Marriott hotel, so you could just stay there as well. I'll zoom in all the way to where those docks are. Yep, right there. And there's also, like I said, a Marriott hotel right there. A lot of other hotels, but we'll start from there because that's most likely where we would have kept our boat. And we'll continue on. And I chose the wrong tool. So there's two different tools you can use here. There's just like the one, draw a line and show the distance, or the route planning tool, where it actually, you click, and it creates a longer line. And you can actually then pace out, a full 100 nautical miles. Other fun facts. So a nautical mile, a lot of people ask, what's the difference between so often people ask what's the difference between a mile and a nautical mile. So a mile is slightly longer. I think 1 mile is like 0.8 or 0.9 nautical miles. Yeah, so 1 nautical mile is a little longer then, right? Yeah, that's right. So 1 nautical mile is like 1 point something miles, little over a mile. So a little bit longer. And why do we use different miles? It really dates back to old sailing days. It actually had to do with how they measured on boats was not the same. They tried to get the same. That's why it's a little off. It became a standardized system at sea. And like I said, we're already here in the Savannah River. It's a really, really, really short trip from Charleston to Savannah. I think less than a day. You have to go up a ways up the river. If you can see down south of the river up there, that's actually Savannah. It's not right on the coast, and it's a lot more industrial on the river there in the Riverwalk. There probably is places to tie up, not places to stay. So like if you want to come there for a day and go to a restaurant, sure. If you want to stay overnight, probably not. And this is where I was going in looking for, you can see me zooming in, kind of panning around. What I was doing is I was looking for a marina. And I realized real quickly that there's a lot of industrial ones like that. That's an industrial dock. You have a lot of these little restaurants along the riverfront there that probably have daily tie-ups, for a few hours while you go eat at a restaurant, but not for like overnighting and staying a long time. So I realized real quickly that probably Savannah proper is not where I'm actually going to find a dock. And maybe someone can correct me that I'm wrong. I have not sailed into Savannah before, so this would be new for me. That's one of my things next Tuesday I want to go vacation is in Savannah. So obviously you have cargo ships there, can't dock next to those. Those are probably commercial ports. So we'll go ahead and just kind of back down on the river. And then I zoomed across the river too. That looked like more industrial. I'm looking at the size of boats, trying to see, and those are ports. Those look like restaurants, and those look like boats tied up there along the Riverwalk there. And the Riverwalk in Savannah is pretty famous for being a fun little restaurant and bar district. But like I said, probably not overnight places. Look, zoomed in here, also looked pretty large boats there. Don't see any sailboats. Are smaller pleasure boats, so probably not the place to keep your boat. So what I ended up doing is okay, so let's backtrack and follow the river back and see if I can find something better. I'm looking for these little things that jut out. So whenever you see those little jut outs like that, that's usually there's going to be a jetty or some kind of bulkhead or capture that's blocking a marina. So when I zoom in, I'm looking for those little things because that shows me, hey, there might be a marina there. Let's zoom in and see if there's a good place to keep a boat. If there's just a few boats there, it might be a private dock. If there's a whole lot of boats there, probably is a marina. So, see, there we go. So zoom in, and now we see a lot of boats. That looks like a winner. It is less than half a mile from the city, so an Uber ride over sounds like a good idea to me. So let's move this down to the next inlet, and that's what I'm doing here. I just moved all these points down so I can go to this, go down to that river, which is a separate river. And the great thing about this tool is you can still grab all these points and move them, so you're not stuck in having to restart everything over again. I can just kind of adjust it, and it still keeps the distance going. So I'm zooming in here, trying to find that marina again. There, I found it. So just getting my bearings straight and keep on moving these points. So now I'm moving that one to the entrance. Move my next one down to go up the river. I think I have like 3 more points, and then we're back to plotting again. Lied. 4 points. Maybe 6. I don't know. No, there's at least... no, it was too far zoomed out. I have several more points to move. But that's good because this river curves. So it actually makes it easier. I can use those points at the curves. Gives a more accurate route. Also, I'll take this moment as I'm doing this to say, feel free to leave comments. If you know or you're from these areas, let me know. Insider knowledge is always the best. Like I said, I didn't do much research on Savannah before starting this route. Sometimes I do. Once I go outside the States, I'll be doing a whole lot more research. Usually in the States, it's at least as an American, it's pretty easy. You show up and start saying, hey, where can I go? And they'll point you in the right direction. If you don't know the language, that's where things might get a little more difficult. But if you're in major cities, you can pretty much just sail up anywhere. And if I pull up to one of these docks that has a bunch of boats, even if I'm not supposed to be there, like a private yacht club, most of them are going to be pretty friendly and be like, yeah, sorry, but let me tell you where you can go and point me in the right direction, and get me to where I need to be. So staying here a few days, any port that I do stay in, I do a minimum of 3 days. More if it's been a long crossing or if it's a major city where there's going to be expeditions inland from there. So obviously in the States, there's not going to be a lot of that, but as we move on, I'll explain that a little bit more. Also, another thing is that we'll never ship out on a Friday. So oftentimes you'll see me, enter 3 dates, and I'll go back and see on the calendar. If that ends up being on a Friday or shipping out, I move it to Saturday. It is us sailors are superstitious, as I call it, superstitious. It's stupid, but setting sail on a Friday is considered bad luck on a voyage. And it had to do with the fact that during old times, you took away a sailor's weekend, and often mutiny was afoot because, that's when everybody else was off work. That's when the party was happening in the cities, in the ports, and, you took that away from your crew that you're hardly paying anything, and next thing you know, you have a mutiny on your hands. So it just became sound legend and lore that you never ship out on a Friday. Why Saturday's okay? I guess because you still get your Friday night. But if you take a Friday, then you cut out any chance of having fun on shore leave. So we don't ship out on Fridays. I'll stick to the tradition. So I just cleared out the route again because we're starting from a new point. So it wasn't quite 100 miles. So I start from 0 because this will be a new day. So a new 100 miles because we slept, woke up, ready to go. We're heading back out, and we're going to head south again towards Florida. The land of the Florida man. Florida's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good places to stop along the Florida coast. Another day trip would be down to Jacksonville. That's right south. You can see it right there. That's right south of Florida, Savannah. But don't want to stop there. I want to stop another famous place that there's a little cape. A lot of people have heard of it, called Cape Canaveral. That's where they launch rockets into space and SpaceX and all that fun stuff. But yeah, there actually is a little, all the way in the back by the cruise docks and everything like that. There actually is up here where you can actually go and tie up there. So it's for tourism. I'll show you there. Zoom in right there. See all those little boats? Yep, there you go. There's a marina. So that's past all where the cruise ship terminals are and everything like that for Cape Canaveral on Disney cruises and all that fun stuff. I'll leave out of there. Maybe if we timed it just right, we can see a rocket launch. And hang out there and sit on the boat and watch a rocket go up. Be kind of cool. Be lucky if we did. But there's also, like I said, there's tons of beaches. I'm kind of showing you all the different beaches along there that you can stop in Florida. Florida's known for their lots and lots of beach line, tons and tons of coast. Also lots of sharks. They're mostly small sharks though, but Florida is, I think, number 1 for shark attacks. Just because I think there's more just dumb people in Florida. Sorry if you're from Florida, but you know what the Florida man. I have friends in Florida and they tell me all about them. And if you don't know what I'm referring to with Florida man, let's say you're watching this from another country, go to Google right now and type in Florida man and be amazed at all the stories and news headlines you'll find. You can actually look for Florida man for every single day of the year, so you can find your birthday Florida man story. So I can't remember what mine is. I think it's like man steals a raccoon and goes into a bar or something like that. Florida man. So Florida man wrestles with an alligator, which that's not that big of a deal. There's a lot worse Florida man stories. Florida man gets naked and wrestles with an alligator and takes him into a high school. That sounds more like a Florida man. Sounds like something that Ian and I would do if we were drinking a whole lot. I backtracked a little bit there because I realized I went over 100 miles. So out of date. So not quite one day to get to Cape Canaveral. It's a little over a day. I'm not going to cheat. I probably would take a day, but hey, we'll say 2. For sake of keeping to my rules I set for this. So draw it in. We'll stay for a few days in Cape Canaveral, and then we will head out towards our last port where we have to make a decision. So from here we could go, you can see right there, there's the Intercoastal again. The Intercoastal runs right along the coast of Florida there, so we could cut back in at any time during this. And that's, I want to stress that anytime a storm's coming or anything like that, we can still, scoot in. How important that November date was just has to do with hurricanes. But like I said, if a rogue hurricane came, we still can get inland. You still don't want to be inland during a hurricane, but hey, it's better than being out in the middle of the ocean. I can tell you that much. So here I'm just putting my dates in, and then we'll continue, clear my path out. We'll head right back out, still going south, because we're going all the way down south to where we make our next decision. So the next decision is kind of, it's one of 2 ways. like I said, we always have the option to go back. I'm not giving you guys that option to go home because we're sticking this out the whole way around the world. You have to listen to my whole voice for an entire way around the world. And maybe one day I'll actually buy a sailboat and do whatever route you guys pick for me. So, yep, going past West Palm Beach would be a great place to stop. There's another 100 miles, so mark it. And we're going down to one of my other favorite Florida coastal towns, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, Fort Lauderdale Yacht Club. I used to run a sailing clinic out of there in the wintertime. Or I did a few for my college sailing team. I coached the William Mary sailing team, College of William Mary, and it wasn't sanctioned by the Lauderdale Yacht Club. In case anybody's like, I'm a member there, I don't remember you. They let us use the facilities to do a collegiate sailing camp during the winter because it's always warm there. Fort Lauderdale is the Venice of America. As you can see here, there's tons of canals everywhere. It is a canal city. Everything's on a canal. They just dug it out everywhere. The big bar district is on Las Olas Boulevard. That's where all the bars are. Means the wave in Spanish. Lots of crew industry here. So what I mean by crew industry is the private charter yachts. So rich celebrities will rent out these 200-foot gigantic boats all the time, or and they'll charter them to go to the Caribbean. And there's an entire industry around that of captains, of crew members that do servers that serve food and drinks to celebrities or to rich people, or engineers and people that work on these boats. So I see I already marked it and we're going on. So this is towards the end of the video now. I'm going to zoom out and show you from here. We could go down to Miami. And I decided, you know what? We don't need to go to Miami. Fort Lauderdale is like right next to Miami. We don't need to have two different places. I can provision everything I need from Fort Lauderdale, just stay there maybe a whole week, and then we can just Uber down to Miami. It's 20 minutes away. So we could still have some fun in Miami. So just make, Fort Lauderdale our last port in America. Fort Lauderdale / Hollywood / Miami. So we can still go party down in Miami, go to South Beach, all that fun stuff, but we'll just stick with Fort Lauderdale because I know I can provision there for cheaper than I can in Miami. It's a little bit less of a tourist trap. So from here, we can go to this little island here called Bimini. That's in the Bahamas. It is less than a day to sail from Fort Lauderdale to Bimini, so that's how close it is from Florida to the Bahamas. And we can be in there. From there, you would head down to the Dominican Republic, to Jamaica, and then down to Colombia across the Caribbean Sea. That's Route 1. That's one way we could take. You would go through the Leeward Passage there. The other route would be to go to Key West, then to Havana, Cuba, and then around towards Cancun, Cozumel, hug the coast around Honduras, Nicaragua, down the Panama Canal. A third route, so I'll give you guys a third option. This is always an option. So I'm showing you guys the Leeward Passage. Another option would be to go to Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the Windward Islands, which is Barbados and Trinidad and those kind of things. And then we could go from there either along Venezuela and the top half of South America, or we can go down to Brazil and go down that way, all the way down, and then we would cross the Atlantic around Brazil, heading over towards the Cape of Good Hope. We wouldn't want to do Cape Horn that way. It's the wrong way. The currents are against you. You can do it that way, but most likely you wouldn't do the Horn. We'd go inside in Drake's Passage versus the Magellan Straits. So that's our options for this trip, at least for our next leg. So just to recap, we can go south to Brazil, we can go to the Bahamas, to Jamaica, across the Caribbean Sea, or we can go to Key West, Havana, Cancun, and cut down Central America. Really, those are the three routes that we can take from where we are right now. I'll let you guys decide in the comments, so please feel free to comment. And that's all I got for this week. So until next time, peace.